Hello, everybody. It's Ryan C. Showers, and I'm coming to you with a special announcement, a trailer, a preview of The Final Scream. So, longtime listeners of the podcast will know that my friend, who is an LA Times best-selling writer of the It Came From the Closet Queer Reflections on Horror anthology book, Joe Vallese, amazing Scream fan, he has written 3 scripts now for the podcast of Scream with Ryan C. Showers for me to perform and read aloud like an audiobook. So the first script we did was called Scream 7. It was released in June of 2023, right after Scream 6. The triggering event of this script was the death of Tara Carpenter and how it affected all of the survivors that were in the universe of Scream. That story kind of wrapped up the Carpenter sisters era of the franchise in our alternate timeline. Then, in April of 2024, we released a second script called Screams. Now, this was our standalone moment for Gale Weathers to be the lead of a Scream movie. It took place in her television studio in New York City, and it investigated the career of Gale Weathers and her impact on the true crime genre, but also pop culture and how she has changed it with the Woodsboro murders and Stab et al. So that script also featured Sidney Prescott and Kirby Reed. So to round out our trilogy, because everybody knows that I love a trilogy, Joey has written one final script for the podcast before the release of Scream 7 called The Final Scream. The plot is as follows. Sidney Prescott's sense of peace and security is unmoored by the revelation of a dark secret and a slew of new Ghostface murders hitting too close to home. So this script is really unique. It is the longest script that we've done. It has a huge scope and a wide, epic sense of the world of Scream and of Sidney Prescott, but it's also very intimate and very emotional and quiet at times. I think everyone's going to be really excited by the work that Joey has done here. The script is written in such a way that it's just dripping with prose and details. It's almost like I'll be reading a book when I perform this in terms of the way that he conducts the opening sequence and like how he describes the settings and the emotions. So the special thing about this script is because we have been existing in this time between the Radio Silence era, the Sam Carpenter era, and this new era with Kevin Williamson and Sidney Prescott again in the real Scream 7, we've been in this era for almost 2 to 3 years now. And these scripts have existed in the vacuum where the fandom has been kind of bored, at a loss for something else, and at a loss for different possibilities for Scream stories, and that's why I think like all 3 of these scripts are so special. The first script that we did, it tackled something that we'll never see done in this way, which is the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline in a way that intermingles with Sidney and Gale. And then the last script we did, Screams, it was about Gale Weathers as though she was the main character and about her legacy in the media, and it was delicious and really played with structure and fun and cool ways. And now we get to end our little trilogy in a very conclusive way, in a way that circles back to the beginning, in a way that feels true to Scream fans. One thing I think people will really enjoy about this script is not only just seeing Sidney happy and seeing what she's like in real life, seeing that like Scream 2 personality version of Sidney that we rarely get to see because she's always in peril, seeing that, but then also seeing her being taken from that peace and put into a gloomy place again, and seeing how Sidney Prescott interacts with these themes of darkness at her age in her new circumstance as a mother and as the matriarch of this family. But also more than that, one of the compliments I got most about Screams back in April of 24 was the relationship between Sidney and Gale. And there are so many scenes in the script where we just gotta get to live with Sidney and Gale individually, but also them as a duo. And that is one of Joey's greatest strengths. And I think that everybody will really enjoy it. And as it pertains to people who love the original trilogy of Scream, which is most of the people in this podcast, right? I think what Joey does in terms of like the arc of the movie, and no one's going to really see it coming, and it's going to make so much sense. It's going to make you have goosebumps. It's really amazing. But the most important thing about this script, I think, is, we were promised a version of Sidney Prescott that we will never get in the real timeline of the movies, which is that she was married to Mark Kinciad after Scream 3. So, Radio Silence kind of promised us that on the press tour for Scream 5, and that promise was never able to come to fruition, despite negotiations for the real Scream 7 earlier this year. But in this script, because Sidney was married to Mark Kincaid in our Scream 7 and our Screams script, we are carrying that over, and we are going to give some resolution to that marriage. We wanted to see that marriage in action. We wanted to exercise it and kind of test the limits of that marriage and see what Sidney and Mark would be like if their family were in danger. That is the cool thing that will make this script especially unique as we go forward. The real Scream 7 is going to have Sidney married to Mark Evans. Our script has her married to Mark Kincaid. So I hope that fans who are disappointed by the fact that we don't get to see Mark Kincaid in real life get to see him married to Sidney in our script here. I also want to give Gale-Weathers a huge shout out. If you've listened to Scream 7 or in Screams, you know that Joey has Gale-Weathers down pat, on point. I mean, Joey understands Gale better than almost anybody out there, I think, and he writes her with such expertise. It also features characters inspired by who we would assume would play them in the movie. We have the likes of Ariana Grande, Jamie Lee Curtis, Bowen Yang, Josh Hartnett, Liv Tyler, Sophie Thatcher. I hope everybody enjoys the script. The official release date will be Friday, December 19th. Our friend Connor McKee from A Very Simple Formula over on Instagram will be making a couple of posters for this script that will be released over the coming weeks as we lead up to the release of the script. And, I just have to say thank you so much to Joey for donating your time and talents, not only for the first two scripts, but especially this one. I think objectively of the three scripts, this is the best written. Joey has done a painstakingly amazing job at this script. He has put so much of his heart and soul into it. And I hope that everybody out there enjoys it as much as I do. So again, it will be released on December 19th. We will follow up with an audio commentary of me reading the script. So as I'm reading the script before recording it, I'm kind of going through and kind of talking through my thoughts on it. But then Joey and I will sit down for a conversation like we have for the past two scripts, and that will be released before Christmas. So I hope everybody gets to listen to the other two scripts if you want to freshen up, but also you can jump right into this one. This one could act as the real Scream 7 that we're about to get right now had things been different. So it's a fun alternate timeline, and Joey has gifted us these three amazing scripts. Also, if you would like to read the script as opposed to just hearing me perform it, it will be available to read for Patreon subscribers, tier 2 and above. Everybody, cheers to the final Scream, and thank you to Joey. You guys aren't prepared for the script you're about to get from Joey. And the tagline for this is going to be a final girl for a final time. So the final Scream coming December 19th on this podcast. It will be episode 275, an amazing number, and a final girl for the final time. All right, everybody, thank you, and we will see you on December 19th.